Support for the Leadoff on WGLT and WGLT.org comes from the Central Illinois Regional Airport, where travelers are one stop away from world destinations. Connections on Delta Airlines to Atlanta are available daily. Close, convenient, CIRA. More at CIRA.com.
Bloomington City Manager says they're working out the details and the council's new priorities for addressing the housing shortage. That's one of the things you need to know to start your day for Friday, July 26th. I'm Ryan Denham, and this is WGLT's The Leadoff. Now let's lead off with a nonprofit that wants to expand its outreach to the LatinX population in Bloomington-Normal. Here's WGLT student reporter Lou Warner.
BrightPoint is a nonprofit with dozens of programs meant to serve families of McLean County at every stage of family development. The agency is working to broaden the population it serves by providing tools that make their services more accessible to non-English speaking families. The doula program is specifically raising money for educational materials in Spanish to bridge the gap between doula and mother caused by language barriers. Jasmine Martin supervises the doula program for BrightPoint.
Unfortunately, we don't have any bilingual doulas, which is why the bilingual education materials are so important so that we can serve the Latinx community so that they feel included and they know that at BrightPoint they're welcome.
Martin says those materials are expensive. For example, a DVD about labor and delivery can run several $100s. Sometimes the doula needs an interpreter. Advisory board member Judy Jacobs says BrightPoint's various services are available to anyone in the community who may need it. So the nonprofit considers the Spanish language materials crucial to its mission.
Inclusion, belonging, understanding, all of those things. So we're serving all of our families the same way, all the way across the state, regardless of background.
BrightPoint will be hosting a pickleball fundraising event. All the proceeds will go towards the doula program. It will be today at the Evergreen Racquet Club in Bloomington. With reporting from student reporter Colleen Holden, I'm Lou Warner.
Here's some other stories we're following at the WGLT newsroom. Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton says that Governor J.B. Pritzker should be in the running for vice president. The Chicago Sun-Times reports that Kamala Harris's campaign is gauging Pritzker's interest for the number 2 spot on the ticket. Schools in McLean, DeWitt, Logan, and Livingston counties need more infant and early childhood mental health consultants. That's according to a report from the Birth to 5 Illinois Early Childhood Advocacy Group. And a historic home in Lexington will be sold at auction. The 1898 Victorian mansion known as the Castle was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 2015. You can find more on these stories at WGLT.org. The Bloomington City Council has created a Downtown Tax Increment Financing District, or TIF, to offer incentives to redevelop the core of the city. Council members also tried to minimize the impact on Bloomington's District 87 schools from lost property tax revenue used to fund the TIF. If there isn't an increase of $5 million in property value within 10 years, a lot of whatever increase there is goes back onto the tax rolls. In this interview with WGLT's Charlie Schlenker, Bloomington City Manager Jeff Jurgens addresses the question of whether $5 million is a meaningful gauge of effectiveness. After all, land values will rise naturally over time, even without new growth.
What was important to the school district was that the tax district, that the TIF was actually growing. And so we put in place a specific number. We talked about what that number should be. Finally, we agreed on $5 million. The thing I would point out, though, is that this doesn't just benefit the school district. It will benefit all of the taxing bodies that are within the TIF. So the potential increment that, or the surplus that could be declared and returned back to the taxing bodies, that would go back to all of the taxing bodies.
But how do you know whether the increase in property value is from new development or just incremental increases in existing development caused by a run-up in property values like we've seen over the last several years?
It could. Like I said, though, this is what we agreed to. This is what we thought was fair. The area of this TIF district, we have not seen increases in the property values there like we want. That's why we created the TIF district. And so the parties believe that the $5 million and the other numbers put into that IGA was fair and would be a good barometer of whether or not the TIF district is working or not.
How are you going to assess student growth in the 11th year to see whether there's been growth in the burden on District 87 of extra services demanded created by any new development in the downtown.
There are formulas and ways that they do that. I don't know all of the details. What I do know is that the state law already requires certain reimbursement if new students are added into the TIF district. And so that the agreement that we entered into with the school district puts some additional clarity around that, and the school district will keep track of whether or not new students are added into that TIF area.
Why didn't the city and the district go in the direction that it did with the old Kmart Plaza redevelopment, in which there was actual revenue sharing from the TIF with the District 87?
It's a different area. It's a different TIF. There are different players at the table, and this is the agreement that we came up this time. Again, something that we thought was fair for all parties. We believe that at the end of the day, the agreement would be beneficial to all the taxing bodies.
The council has now set priorities to address the housing shortage, establishing a standardized housing incentive, enhancing housing rehabilitation in blighted areas, focusing on intergovernmental collaboration, and, of course, completing an ongoing review of zoning and subdivision codes. What are the details?
Well, we're working out the details. I can tell you that as soon as the night that resolution passed, I was already working with staff on what our next steps are going to be. We're going to divide and conquer this. We're going to be working on a standardized incentive for housing. We're going to be working on trying to develop the most robust rehabilitation program for our neighborhoods that has housing stock that might be in need of rehabilitation. And then we're also going to be focusing on reviewing our zoning code and subdivision code. We'll probably outsource the review of those codes. I think that will help us make quite a bit of progress in a more timely fashion. So there are a lot of moving parts, but I think we divide and conquer this.
That's Bloomington City Manager Jeff Juergens. He spoke with Charlie Schlenker. You can read or listen to the rest of their conversation at WGLT.org. Before we let you go, workers at the Lincoln Women's Prison that's slated to close are hosting a charity softball tournament tonight in Lincoln, helping a local food bank and raising their concern about the planned closure. That's it for today. I'm Ryan Denham. The show was produced by Rosalie Truback. You can subscribe to the Leadoff on the NPR app or wherever you listen.